Furniture flipping, the practice of buying used furniture, restoring or refinishing it, and reselling it for a profit. Today I'm giving myself just one day to turn a cheap thrift store find into something people would actually want to buy. Here are the rules. Rule number 1, I have to buy a used piece of furniture. Rule number 2, I have to restore or refinish it. I can't just buy it and then sell it as is. And rule number 3, I have to do all of the work and get it listed for sale before the end of the day today. So with the clock officially started at 9:35 a.m. today, I head to the thrift store. I always head straight for the dressers first because they usually have the highest profit potential. This first one caught my eye, but that ended pretty quickly. It was priced at $325 and was even missing a few drawer knobs. At that price, it was an easy pass. A few minutes later, I spotted this dresser. It wasn't the flashiest piece in the store, but at just $35, it immediately had my attention. It was a name brand piece and seemed to be made of solid wood with a cherry veneer. The biggest problem was that it looked extremely outdated. The dark cherry finish, decorative fan carving, and dated hardware made it feel stuck in a style that wasn't very desirable in today's age. And on top of that, there were scratches across the top edge and along the base. Still, underneath all of that was a well-built dresser with plenty of potential. And at only $35, there was more than enough room to turn this into a highly profitable flip. So I headed to the front to purchase it. I'm gonna pick up a dresser. It's $35.
And you're taking it now?
Yes.
Okay, and choose from here. Put that on the dresser, use this to pick it up.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just like that, it was ours. Once we had it loaded up in the car, it was time to start planning the restoration. All right, we've got it all loaded up, and I'm actually pretty happy about this piece. I think we got a really good deal for $35. I don't think that the plan is gonna be to restore this piece. I think the plan should be to modernize it. It's a very outdated style that doesn't have too much resale value, but I think that if we modernize it and refresh it, it could look really nice. So our first step before we get to work is gonna be to head to the hardware store to pick up some new drawer pulls and some new paint. I already had a vision for this piece. A dark gray-blue matte paint color would give it a much more modern look, and a new set of silver knobs would completely change the feel of it. Luckily, I found a 10-pack of knobs for only $20, so the makeover was already off to a great start. But unfortunately, weather never seems to want to cooperate, and it started raining. And on top of that, it was already 12 o'clock. Nearly 2.5 hours of the challenge were gone, and I hadn't even started restoring the dresser yet, so I had to move fast. But this wasn't going to stop me from trying to complete this challenge. Our first step was to remove the finish on the top of the dresser so that we could determine if we wanted to stain it or paint it. While taking off the drawer pulls, I noticed that there was a sticky substance on the dresser, and if we skipped cleaning it, it would have gummed up our sandpaper and made every step after it harder. So I used some soap and water to scrub it clean. And luckily, the rain didn't last long. At this point, the weather was all of a sudden pretty nice out. To remove the old finish, I used my circular sander and a 120 grit sandpaper, but the finish was very stubborn and I had to switch to an 80 grit sandpaper, otherwise we would be sanding all day. And this made things a whole lot easier. With an 80 grit sandpaper, the old finish came right off, but there was a big problem. All right, we have the top fully sanded down now, but there is a bit of an issue. The old finish was super tough, so we had to use a low grit sandpaper, but the veneer was super thin, so we did end up sanding through the veneer in a few spots. So that means we're gonna have to paint this piece. So maybe it wasn't such a big problem, but it is unfortunate to not have the option to stain anymore. But luckily, painting the whole piece will look great. Since the 80 grit sandpaper made the wood pretty rough, I smoothed it out with a 220 grit. Then I switched to my detail sander to scuff sand the sides and the drawers. This is the point of the refinishing process where things actually start to look worse before they look better. The finish is scratched up, the color is uneven, and honestly, it looks bad. But that's just how you know you're doing a good job with your prep work. And soon, things are gonna look a whole lot better. At this point, we were actually doing good on time, but then I remembered that the new drawer knobs I picked up only need one screw, while our drawers had 2 screw holes. So I used some wood filler to fill in the extra holes on each drawer. Having to fill these in would add extra time, but it was 100% necessary to get a good looking finished product. Then I used more wood filler to fill in the fan carving on the middle drawer. Personally, I kind of liked the fan detail, but I knew that filling it in would add more value to the piece, and the goal is to sell this dresser for as much as we can at the end, so it needed to go. After about 30 minutes, once the wood filler had dried, I sanded it smooth. The goal was that once we painted over it, that it would blend in perfectly. So I sanded it with a 220 grit sandpaper to make sure it was smooth. Now that we were fully done sanding, I wiped everything down with a wet rag to get off all the dust. And I was very happy to be done sanding. It's gotta be my least favorite part of any furniture flip. But we couldn't celebrate yet because there was still a lot left to do. Our next goal was to paint the dresser. Before we paint, we're gonna use some painter's tape to wrap around the drawers so that our drawer slides don't get paint splatter all over them. We didn't need to fully cover the drawer slides because I had a trick that would help save us some time with our paint prep. Our trusty painting tent will prevent overspray from getting on the car and everywhere else in the garage. And my painting trick was to partially put the drawers in the dresser while painting so that the taped off slides were exposed, but the rest of the drawer slides were covered inside the dresser. I sprayed a coat of gray bonding primer over the entire dresser to give the paint the best possible surface to adhere to. Some furniture flippers skip this step because it adds extra time, but I never do. Without a good bonding primer, the finish is much more likely to scratch, chip, or peel over time. Since I wanted to advertise this piece as a high-end dresser, I had to take the extra time to do it right. Once the primer was fully dry, we were ready for our new paint. This was a moment I'd been looking forward to because it's where the transformation really starts to come to life. And I immediately loved the color. It had just enough blue to stand out while still keeping that sleek, modern look that makes furniture feel high-end. Once the first coat was dry, I applied a second to build up the color and make sure I had an even coverage across the entire dresser. 2 coats ended up being just enough to completely hide the old cherry finish. And by the time I was done, it hardly looked like the same piece I had picked up from the thrift store just hours earlier. All right, now that the paint is dry, let's go check out how everything's looking. And it was looking great. We managed to get a nice, smooth, even coverage on the entire dresser and the drawers. And the matte finish really made the entire piece look sleek and modern. Now all we have left to do is put the new hardware on the drawers. This is where the piece fully came together. The silver hardware matched with the blue paint perfectly. Just a reminder, this is what the dresser looked like before, just really outdated and a bit scuffed up. And here's the dresser now. It turned out really, really nice. It doesn't even feel like the same piece anymore. We spent $35 on the dresser and about $45 in materials fixing this piece up. I'm gonna list it for $500 and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to find a buyer at that price point. Now that we've completed our goal with transforming the dresser for this to be a full furniture flip, we need to sell it. It's listed online, so now we just have to wait. I had a few messages on Facebook Marketplace just 1 or 2 days after listing it, seeing if they could pick it up this weekend. A couple of the messages wanted to see if I could deliver it, which I don't love doing, but there was one person who was willing to pick it up themselves, and they should be here in just a few minutes. So fingers crossed, everything goes well. It'll be a $500 sale. Hi, how's it going?
Good.
I'm Noah.
Sarah, this is my husband, George.
Hey, how's it going? Well, there it is.
Cool. Is Venmo good?
Sure. And it sold. It was actually a nice, easy, smooth transaction. They just pulled up and then we loaded the dresser into the car and it sold to a nice family. The buyers got a nice piece of furniture that's named brand for a reasonable price. And after the initial cost of $35 for the dresser and the cost of materials, I profited about $420. I spent around 8 hours on this flip, which breaks down to about $52 per hour, which is pretty solid. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other YouTube videos and consider leaving a like and subscribing. It helps a ton. Anyways, I'll see you next time.